Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, let me go to another slide. I'm more interested in yung kanina po tinatanong ni Congresswoman Jinky Luistro about NARI group. Familiar po kayo dito, no? Just I know you have already been answered this, but I just want to for the purpose of record, familiar po kayo sa NARI NARI Group Corporation. Tama po ba? Did I say it right?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, you're familiar with that. And ang gusto ko lang po malaman dito sa NARI na to, is NARI affiliated with the... Oh, my question, meron bang State Grid International Development Limited representing or own the certain stocks, that's why it may sit sa board? Do you confirm this, board ng Ngcp? State Grid International Development Limited, do they have a representative in the board of directors of Ngcp?
Representatives, yes,
So
Mr.
they have a
Chairman,
seat.
yes.
Okay, yeah. So, is State Grid International, a subsidiary of State Grid Corporation of China, affiliated with I think the State Grid International is a subsidiary Grid Corporation of China, is it correct?
Of State Grid Corporation of
Yes,
China.
of China.
Yes, yes.
That is correct. Okay. So, is NARI now, the company, is he affiliated with State Grid Corporation of China? Is it a subsidiary of State Grid International Development, NARI?
Can we check on that, Mr. Chairman, and can we revert?
Yeah, can we
Yeah.
go back to the previous slides? Because according to Mr. Chair, according to my records, NARI is directly affiliated to the State Grid Corporation of China, or SGCC, which you confirmed just now that it is also connected with the State Grid International Development Limited, which is also connected and affiliated with a subsidiary of State Grid Corporation of China.
Yeah. As to whether NARI is connected with SGDIL
Yes, po.
or what, can we revert to you on this during the next meeting?
But could you at least confirm to this representation that indeed NARI, I'm sorry, State Grid International Development Limited has a seat in the board of Ngcp?
Yes, yes, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. Yes.
In that the State Grid International subsidiary, which has a seat in the board, is a subsidiary of the State Grid Corporation of China.
SGDIL is
Yes.
a subsidiary of SGCC.
That is correct?
Yes, yes, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
now, according to my records, Mr. Chair, is that NARI is directly affiliated to the State Grid Corporation of China, or SGCC. Na-mention
That's
niyo
what
po.
we need to check, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman.
Please, kindly, please. Kasi ang gusto ko lang pong malaman that also NARI has been awarded with certain projects. Can we go to the next slide? Next slide. Oh, no. Can you go back? Go back. One slide. Yes, that's Mr. Chair. Those are the projects that have been awarded to NARI Corporation. Andyan po, Luzon Voltage Improvement Projects, Stage 2, and many others. No, I will not enumerate to you po, Mr. Chair, Attorney Sagayo, but can you confirm, Mr. Vega, if these projects have been awarded to NARI?
I confirm, Mr. Chair, the SCADA. No? But
Yeah.
for the rest, can we check, sir?
Okay. Thank you. Now, the reason why, Mr. Chair, I'm showing you this is that, di ba, balikan ko po yung tanong ko kanina, that the biddings and awards should be stringent. Tama po. And we agreed on that. But what is, to me, puzzling, no, at this point in time, and I do not find fault here. I just want to base my questions on facts and records. What is confusing to me, Mr. Chair, I don't know how you adopt or implement a certain policy covering your bids and awards, but sa amin po, pag isa pong umuupo sa isang board of directors, halimbawa, dahil affiliated, well-connected ang NARI, would it be a conflict of interest to award certain huge projects to a company that has has an influence on how a highest policy-making body of NGCP sits, no? Halimbawa, ang SGCC ba yun? SGCC, which is directly affiliated with NARI, tapos na-awardan ng company ng contract na meron silang stake doon sa board na yon. Would it be it's a conflict of interest? I don't know how you run the company or your board, but to me, as an ordinary person, I would say that it is a conflict of interest. Would you agree with me? Would that be a fair assessment, Attorney Sagayo?
Yeah, as we have said, Mr. Chairman, just to be sure with respect to our reply, and if we undertake to check into this and revert.
Yeah,
Oo.
because we're talking here of transmission lines po.
Correct.
And we agreed that sabi nga po ni Congresswoman Stella Kimbo kanina, I was listening to her interpellation, ang future incoming mayor po natin ng Marikina, tama po yung pagkasabi niya, he tried to bring down the discussion to a level where our consumers would understand. Now, when we talk about grid, these are considered parang it likened to a highway. Now, pag ganito po yung mga projects na sinasabi po natin, huge transmission lines and projects, tapos yung isang state-owned companies by China, Republic of China, has an asset. I don't care whether they have a minimal influence in the board, but as long as they at least influence to some extent the direction of the company to where these awards are to be given, which companies are to be given to me, would be a undue advantage and to a very large extent a conflict of interest. And I hope the board of NGCP would look into this, because this is where some of the members of the committee may have apprehension na bakit naman ganon, na kung if you're trying to insulate the board kasi you're talking about transmission of power, energy and supply to our communities, you should at least, as far as you can, as best as you can, push all the influence of foreign companies from ever influencing the direction of the board.
We take note of those.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. Just a few questions, Mr. Chair, sa NGCP. Sino kaya makakasagot? Attorney Sagayo, probably. Sir, magandang gabi po sa inyo.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening,
Good
sir.
evening,
Just
Honorable
gusto ko nang balikan yung mga konti na pag-usapan sa last hearing. On paper, ang NGCP po ay nagmamayari 60% Filipinos and 40% owned by Chinese citizens. Tama po ba yun, sir?
Tama po.
Ang purpose po ng requirement na ito na itinalaga ng ating batas ay para masiguro na Filipino ang in control ng NGCP. Tama po ba?
Tama po.
Ito pong 40% na ito yung nagmamayari, please correct me, sir, if my statements are, yung State Grid International Development Limited o SGID, ito po ba yung 40%? Attorney
State
Sagayo?
Grid Corporation of China po. Opo.
Tama po. Yung SGID naman po ay isang subsidiary ng state-owned State Grid Corporation ng China. Tama po ba yun?
Tama po.
In other words, yung gobyerno ng China ang nagmamayari ng 40% ng NGCP, which controls the Philippine National Power Grid. Tama po, sir?
Can you please repeat the question, Ms.
In other words, yung gobyerno po ng China ang nagmamayari ng 40% ng NGCP.
Parang state-owned po yan, Mr. Chairman. Parang sa atin po, parang
Yes,
government-owned or
Opo,
controlled
kaya ko po
corporation.
tinanong yung nauna eh.
Okay.
Pero, so tama po.
Tama po.
So ito po ang gobyerno ng China na at present meron po tayong territorial dispute. Tama po.
Tama po, Mr. Chairman.
Doon sa West Philippine Sea. Kasi Attorney Sagayo po, sir, no?
Yes po.
I heard that you're also one of the directors of NGCP.
Opo.
Gano'n na po kayo katagal sa NGCP, sir?
Since 2010, magkasama po kami ni Mr. C.
2010.
2010.
So, kailan po ba pumasok yung NGCP? 2009 po ba?
09. Ang operations, the incorporation of NGCP is February of 2008.
So, isa po pala kayo sa mga original na nandiyan dyan na.
Hindi po. Kami po yung bumili sa shares ni Mr. Rason.
Okay po.
Opo.
Yeah. Pero matagal na po kayo dyan. So, isang dekada na, mahigit po, no?
Opo.
Base po sa isinumiti na General Information Sheet, ang chairman of the board ng NGCP po pasensya po, medyo nahihirapan akong basahin eh. Zhu Guan Chao. Tama po ba yung pronunciation ko?
Tama po, Mr. Chairman.
Na isang Chinese national na taga Beijing, China.
Tama po.
Tama po. Ang ibig sabihin po nito na kahit 40% owner lang ang mga Chinese ng NGP, siya po ang naitalagang chairman. Tama po, sir?
Chairman. Opo.
So kayo po, bumoto rin po kayo. Kasama po ba kayo sa mga bumoto at pagpili ng chairman ng NGCP?
As a member of the board, yes po.
Kaibigan niyo po ba tong si Zhu Guancho? On a personal capacity, sir?
Siguro po what I can say is kakilala po. Because I seldom see him. He's only here during board meetings.
Okay po.
Opo.
Ako lang po, medyo nababagabag. Hindi niyo naman po siya personal na kaibigan. Binoto niyo po siya bilang chairman. Pinili
Opo.
niyo po siya.
Opo.
Bakit po kaya? Bakit po siya ang pinili ninyo?
Kasi po sa the way, lahat po kasi ng executive officers ng NGCP, President, Chief Technical Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Corporate Secretary, Assistant Corporate Secretary, HR, lahat po yan Filipino. Ang mga Vice Chairman po ng board, Filipino
Sorry
din
to
po.
cut you, sir.
Opo. Sure.
Limited time lang po kasi
Opo.
tayo. I hope that you could just answer the question. Ano po yung reason kung bakit pinili niyo po si Mr. Zhu Guangzhou Chao as bilang yung chairman po ninyo?
Kasi nga po yun, lahat po ng positions ng NGCP, puro Filipino ang nandyan. So we deemed it, anyway, ang chairman naman ng board, nag-preside lang naman during meetings.
Sir, I'm sorry, with all due respect, sir.
Opo.
Yung lang po, we're just talking here. You
Opo,
don't have to
opo.
be over-defensive of the question. I'm just asking, gusto ko lang makuha yung thoughts nyo bilang one of the directors ba? Na since binoto nyo yung isang Chinese national to be the chairman of NGCP, I'm trying to comprehend. Ano po kaya yung personal reason ninyo? Other than yung binabanggit nyo na superficial, bakit po siya ang pinili ninyo bilang chairman ng NGCP?
Personally po, Mr. Chairman, yan lang po ang rason on my part.
Dahil parang gusto nyo siyang pagbigyan, dahil yung iba Pilipino na, yung chairman ibigay naman natin sa mga Chinese. Yun po ba yun?
Kasi anyway naman po, number one, hindi naman po illegal.
Yeah, no, sir, don't be... Sa akin lang, sir, no, with all due respect again,
Opo,
sir,
opo.
you don't have to be over-defensive. I'm not saying that there's something illegal or may kamalian. I'm just trying to ask.
Correct.
Na sa inyo po, ako kasi pag bumuboto ko, pinag-iisipan ko eh. Yung simpleng sidecar driver doon sa amin sa Tondo, pag bumuboto, tinitignan niya yung pagkatao ng tao. Bakit ko po binoboto? Ganun din po siguro sa isang kumpanya. Pag binoboto ko to, hindi naman siguro dahil puro Pilipino na, ibigay naman natin sa Chinese yung chairman. Gusto ko lang pong makita without over-defending, sir, na wala namang illegal. No one here. Ako na po una, hindi ko naman sinasabi na illegal. Tinatanong ko lang po, with all due respect, Attorney Sagayo, bakit po ninyo binoboto ang isang Chinese national to be chairman in your own decision nyo po? Bakit po kaya siya ang pinili ninyo? Ano po ba?
Sa akin, frankly po talaga, Mr. Chairman, yan lang po eh. At saka, minority shareholder po sila, partner po sila. So, since nagpre-preside lang naman ng meeting, during board meetings, kahit paano naman as minority shareholder, baka okay lang na, I mean, may right din naman sila to become also an officer.
No,
of the
sure. Yeah,
corporation.
sure. So, just take your answer for what it is, sir. Ako lang kasi, iniisip ko, baka may rason talaga na deeper than that. No? So, yun lang. Gusto nyo lang pagbigyan yung mga Chinese na ibigay na natin yung pagiging chairman doon sa Chinese dahil yung iba Pilipino naman. Yun po ang rason ninyo. Tama po ba, sir? Is that right, sir?
Kasi may right din po sila as minority shareholder nga po. So, at saka yung function lang po nila is really just to preside. So, we do not see anything wrong na ibigay din naman sa kanila considering that all positions in NGC po are occupied by Filipino citizens.
Yeah, sir, wala naman sinasabing illegal or wrong. But I will just take your answer for what it is with all due respect. Sino-sino po ang mga Chinese nationals na nasa management ng NGCP, sir?
Wala po, Mr. Chairman. Wala po.
Wala po kahit isa.
Wala po, Mr. Chairman.
So kung wala po, sino po ba tong nakita ko po dito sa General Information Sheet. Pasensya na po ulit, medyo mahirap banggitin. Si Lee Sin Chua. Ang pangalan po niya ay Liu Sin Hua.
Luis Sinhua, Mr. Chairman.
Sino po
Director.
siya? Director po. Ano po
Opo.
ang function siya sa NGCP?
Director po, Mr. Chairman, ng NGCP.
Yun lang po.
Opo. And Chairman of the Board Audit Committee.
Chairman of the Board of Audit Committee.
Opo.
Paano po siya naging chairman of the board ng Audit Committee? Binoto rin po siya?
Yeah, he was selected also.
Sino po namili?
Ng Board Audit Committee din po. At saka board ng NGCP.
So, hindi lang po yung chairman ang Chinese na nakaupo.
Hindi lang, plus the Board Audit Committee.
Pangalawa po to na Chinese.
Opo.
Sino naman po si Liu Xiao? Pasensya na po, parang puro Chinese. Yung dila ko, hindi pang Chinese talaga. Mr. Chair, Liu Xiao.
I do not know he...
Hindi niyo po siya kilala?
No.
Hindi po. Sino po si Wenbo?
Wenbo, I think you're referring to old directors who left already the company.
Yeah, just tell me, sir. So, Wenbo
used to be a director of NGCP po.
Kailan po siya umalis?
2015?
Used to be?
A director po.
Ano pong function niya other than being a director?
There was a time po that he was the chief technical officer of NGCP.
Sir, yung mga Chinese na kasama namin na sa NGCP ngayon, I'm assuming that they applied and were granted an alien employment permit by the Department of Labor and Employment. Tama po ba?
Lahat po ng Chinese na nasa amin po ngayon have all the appropriate visas issued
And they
by
were
the Philippine
given that
government.
position dahil wala pong Pilipino na makagagawa ng kanilang tungkulin.
You're referring to CTO ngayon as we speak
Yung
now po?
mga Chinese po na nasa inyo po ngayon.
Yung mga Chinese po ngayon na nasa amin po, walang nag-o-occupy ng executive positions or managerial positions. They are just members of the board.
So wala na po tayo sa technical management
wala
or
po,
anything.
wala po.
Yes, the reason why I asked the question, Your Honor, dahil under Section 40 of our Labor Code, the employment permit that is issued for non-residents and aliens to be applicant employer at the determination of non-availability of a person in the Philippines who is competent, able, and willing at the time of application to perform the services which an alien is desired. Yung meaning ko po, yung mga dapat ma-pass on na technical aspects ng Chinese sa atin, dapat maipasa na sa mga Pilipino. Tama po ba?
Opo.
So it is your stand, sir, na wala naman talagang authority, control, or anything of vital position ang mga Chinese national sa NGCP?
Wala po, wala po.
Just a short manifestation, Mr. Chair, ang pamamahala po ng power grids ng ng ating bansa ay partially nationalized industry. In other words, Pilipino ang kailangan may control dito. Kung gano'n naman po pala, bakit pa may mga Chinese dito sa NGCP? Otherwise, nakakabahala po ito sa ating national security. Sa akin lamang pong pananaw, kung papayagan po ng ating batas, ang 40% nito ay pwede ring foreigners and case and Chinese nationals. Dapat nating siguraduhin ng pagpapatakbo nito ay eksklusibong nasa mga Pilipino. Like what you said, sir, there is no one-hit switch button na pwedeng patayin. Yun ang naririnig ko since last hearing eh. Tama po ba from NGCP?
Wala po yan. Wala po. Fake news po yan.
Fake news. But how are you certain, sir? Attorney Matibag already said earlier na may information sila that they do believe that it is possible to influence the system remotely. Ako lang po, as a Pilipino, nakakapagpaalala. I hope you understand my asking the questions dahil sa narinig ko kay Attorney Matibag. Sa akin lang, Attorney Sagayo, siguro hindi naman po masama na pakinggan ninyo at i-validate ninyo yung sinasabi ng kapwa Pilipino instead of simply refuting everything right off the bat. No, I think as Filipinos, we should all work together. Like I always said, sinabi ko sa nakarang hearing, Mr. Chair, wala pong magmamalasakit sa ating mga Pilipino, kundi tayo rin kapwa Pilipino. So I appeal, NGCP. You know, naghihiring tayo dito, naglalabas tayo ng mga information. There are valid queries by the members. But sometimes, ang naririnig namin sa inyo is over-defensive, na para bang tila bagang mali ang tanong ninyo. Ito ang dapat. Wala pong illegal. Lahat tama. Hindi porke walang illegal, ayos na sa national security natin. There are times and instances that the laws can be circumvented. We should not allow it as Filipinos, and our primordial concern is the sovereignty of our country. As Filipinos, we should be patriots. Sir, you said earlier na patriots kayo. O di kung may narinig kayong Pilipino na nagsasalita, with all due respect, sir, na may concern, let's validate it. Let's be sure. Kung may mamanipula sa grid natin, sasabihin ba naman sa inyo na hindi namin kaya o kaya namin? Natural, itatago ng ibang bansa. Because kung sabotage ang intention nila, they would not let us know, Filipinos. Itatago sa atin at gulpi-digulat ang aabutin nating mga Pilipino. Kaya I appeal to everyone, let's all work together. Attorney Matibag, ayan nagsasalita sila. Upuan natin, pakinggan nyo sila. Huwag yung parang nasa kaliwa, nasa kanan, nagsasabong tayo pula sa puti. As Filipinos, iisa lang po ang kulay natin. Iisang bangkalan tayo sa Pilipinas. Pag lumubog ang bansa natin, sama-sama tayo. Let's all work together and let's listen sa kapwa Pilipino natin. Again, Mr. Chair, thank you for the time. And if I may just emphasize, lagi ko pong sinasabi, tayong mga Pilipino, wala talagang tutulong at magmamalasakit sa atin, kundi tayo rin kapwa Pilipino. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
The Honorable Ernest Junicio of the 1st District of Manila. We now proceed. The Honorable Alonto.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A'udhu billahi minasyaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat at isang masayang Pasko sa ating pong lahat. Mr. Chair, I'd like to premise my questions on two grounds. First, Mr. Chair, I represent a community where it is well located within the operation of NGCP. I come from Lanao del Sur, 1st District, and as you know, NGCP is heavily invested and operated within my area. The generation, power generation comes from the lake I think more than 50% of the supply of power supply to Mindanao, and even as far as Visayas, comes from the hydroelectric power supply that we generate from Lake Lanao, which is right outside my doorstep. Literally, I was actually living just near the lake. Secondly, Mr. Chair, the issue on whether or not there seems to be a apprehension on the issue of national security. This has been widely and exhaustively discussed 10 years ago, Mr. Chair. The late Senator Miriam Defensor came out with a very strong statement and even described this as a national power virus, no, ang pagkasabi po niya. That was 10 years ago. She came out with the position. I think the discussion was the possibility of maybe amending the EPIRA law. And the late Senator Miriam Defensor warned us that in terms of our public utilities, we as legislators should be more circumspect and should be more wary about allowing other foreign countries. And she's not only talking about China alone. She was talking about opening up the possibility of entering and to extend giving powers to international companies to probably manipulate or influence how we would run the national grid, and especially if it talks about energy sector and energy industry. So, Mr. Chair, I was listening to several members of this committee, and basically the 50% or more than 50% of the discussion revolves around the issue of national security. And I do not question the patriotism of each and every single person in this room. If we talk about patriotism and nationalism, we are all nationalists and we are all patriotic to some degree. But this is about business and this is about profit. So the issue and the fear that we may hear from my members, and just to borrow some of the words that were said during the course of this inquiry committee hearing, there was a word that was used, yung speculation. To my understanding, it could border into paranoia. Mr. Chair, I don't see this as something that should stay away from or distance ourselves from. In fact, the Constitution recommends, to my understanding, encourages us to be, to embrace paranoia to some degree, to be speculative at some degree, to be apprehensive at some degree when issues and topics surround around the issue of national security. That is why, Mr. Chair, the Constitution, though we may enter into actively, the government or the state may enter into active business dealings with other foreign countries, it remains that the state should maintain ownership over our natural resources and national assets. That's how paranoid our Constitution is. That's how conservative our Constitution is. Now, that is how apprehensive our Constitution is. And the Constitution even maintains the power of the state. Those companies who are applying to do business using public utilities to exploit our natural resources to the House of Representatives and to some extent to Senate. That's why you have the Ngcp now requesting or applying for your franchise, because it's a state power that maintains by the Constitution to the House of Representatives. That's why, Mr. Chair, this honorable committee is hearing the franchise of Ngcp. That's how apprehensive, that's how paranoid, that's how conservative, and that's how speculative our Constitution. So when it comes to issue on national security, in fact, Mr. Chair, I'd like to state that we're talking here about power and energy. Constitution is very, very specific. Article 12, Section 2. It says, all natural resources, in particular, potential energy, are owned by the state, period. That's how the Constitution language the powers of the state to be maintained, this natural asset within the grasp of the state, Mr. Chair. So when it comes to speculation, I think that's the very, very basic why we are having this discussion, because all of us have our own speculations. And I myself, I would say, medyo paranoid po ako pagdating sa national security, Mr. Chair. Because the Constitution wants us to embrace that attitude because we will not be dealing with actual threat. We are also be warned about the potential threat. That's why we should not be reactive. We should always be proactive. That's what I guess the power of this honorable committee is. This is legislation at work. We should be proactive in trying to avoid any potential threat that may alarm us in the future, especially if it concerns about national security. Mr. Chair, having said that, I'd like to ask a few questions to NGCP. Because in order to address speculations again of a potential threat to our national security, perhaps I'd like to ask how NGCP able to acquire or able to at least subcontracts some of the projects and or services that you require for your company to be able to service the supply transmission of electric power to our community. So I would like to ask Mr. Chair, NGCP Director, these are just simple questions po, Mr. Chair. Tama po ba na you procure services and goods sa mga ibang companies through a competitive bidding? Is that correct? If anyone from NGCP, my fraternity Brad, Attorney Ronald Concepcion just winked at me, Mr. Chair. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, may we allow Attorney Concepcion to respond to my question? Since he's a fraternity Brad, he could be as honest as he could be. So,
Attorney,
Mr. Chairman,
a Brad will never lie to a Brad.
we
no?
have,
Mr. Concepcion, you're a lawyer?
yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So, Attorney Ronald Concepcion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Procurement of goods and services in NGCP follows a very public and deliberative process. Public in the sense that we open the bids and we open the procurement to bidders, no, who have previously been accredited with us, who have the track record, the performance of which have been already evaluated by NGCP. And then the bids that have been qualified are to be determined or to be evaluated by what we call the accreditation, bid evaluation, and awards committee. This committee will now determine whom or which companies have the best offer to the corporation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chair, may I direct? I know I don't want to be biased because this conversation between fraternity Brad, I could be biased. So I would like to redirect my question to Attorney Sagayo, if you may, sir. Yes. My follow-up question. Thank you, Brad. So,
Welcome.
meaning to say, jumping off from the response of Attorney Concepcion, Attorney Sagayo, so ibig sabihin po, yun ngayong may bids and procurement committee po kayo, tama ho ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chairman.
And I would assume that the bids and procurement committee is compliance with the stringent processes.
Definitely, Mr. Chairman. We go through we vet suppliers, we thoroughly vet contractors.
Yeah, because
We do, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
Thank you, Thank you po, Attorney, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, kasi kanina po nasabi po ni Brad, Attorney Ronald, and it's a good thing that you mentioned about yung background check, di ba? Because in bidding process, you do not only measure the capacity, the assets of the company to be able to deliver the services or the projects that you intend to award to that company, but you also do vetting processes in by way of checking the background of each of these companies. Is it correct?
We do.
And partly the reason why you are checking the background of each of this company because you're opening up also the bidding because you're talking about huge projects, di ba? So meaning to say, there's a possibility that local contractors or local companies may not qualify to these projects. That's why you're opening up and widen the scope for other and foreign companies to also submit their application for a bids awards. Tama ho ba?
Tama po.
And the
Tama.
reason why you're also doing background checks, it's because part of your security of transmissions of asset, and this is I'd like to, Mr. Chair, point it out that according to the process by which NGCP evaluate and mitigate the possible awards, kasi you're talking about national security, ay nakalaan po dito yung security study ninyo, risk identification, risk mitigation measures, Mr. Chair, that would guide your bids and awards committee to do the vetting processes of each of the foreign companies that applies for this for the projects that you're about to deliver or you're about to award. Kasi it also speaks not only for internal organization processes of NGCP, but it also speaks about the national security concerns. Tama po ba?
Tama po. Tama po.
Okay. So yung para dun sa mga suppliers and contractors po, no? Tama po ba yon?
Tama po, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd just like to invite the attention of everyone here, especially NGCP, since we're talking about a very stringent bids and awards committee, that you open up to not only local companies but even foreign companies to be able to participate. I'd just like to, kasi in the last previous hearings, Mr. Chair, I believe there was a request by the committee to submit the list of all those companies that have already been awarded with certain contracts or certain projects. And I have here, Mr. Chair, this is based on the list of contractors to whom NGCP awarded this project. This is also a letter, I guess, dated January 6, 2025, a list of the contractors for projects since 2009. And there seems to be a list of all the contractors, but I just want to follow up on certain number of foreign contractors, which apparently happens to be Chinese-owned. No? Alaman po natin ng China, there's no such thing in China as privately owned companies. No? I mean, we all know it by to the letter and as a fact that China is a communist party. So all companies, huge companies, it's either owned directly by the state or substantially owned by the Chinese Politburo. No? There's no such thing as free market in terms of companies existing or operating within China. So all these companies have a tremendous interest by the Chinese Politburo. And when you talk about Chinese Politburo, you're talking about Chinese Communist Party, and you talk about Chinese Communist Party, you talk about China in particular. So let me just ask our Secretariat here if you can just flash some of those list of companies that have already been awarded with contracts. These are 18 companies, Mr. Chair. Meron ba dyan? Mr. Chair, I'd just like to zero in on some... Andyan ba yung ano? I hope, Mr. Chair, this will not be deducted from my time. Are we ready, our technical persons? But at any rate, let me just ask na lang, no? Ayan. These lists are from NGCP po. Let me just be selective. Yung sa 12, yung sa China Kamsi Engineering Company Limited, Kamsi. Mr. Chair, for the information of the general public, for brevity, this corporation is a subsidiary of Sinomac, or the China National Machinery Industry Corporation. Sinomac, Mr. Chair, in turn, is a state-owned enterprise of the People's Republic of China. Would you confirm this, that you have a contract that was awarded to China Kamsi Engineering Company Limited? Yes, Mr. Almeida.
We confirm, Mr. Chair. We
Okay,
have a process.
see, thank you very much. And that Sinomac, just recently, I guess, Mr. Chair, has constructed on March 28. I think this has already been, ano no? Tapos na po itong project ng Rico. Can you ask the next slide? Yeah. So that's a project, Mr. Chair, the total contract value of $73.04 million. This is the Chico River Pump Irrigation Project. Would you confirm that this actually happened, Mr. Chair? Attorney, Mr. Rico Vega?
Mr. Chair, that is not an NGCP project.
Okay, that's not in GCP. Oh, that's the picture. Okay, thank you very much. This is a good thing about having this presentation because you can either confirm nor deny, no? So thank you. But Mr. Chair, CAMC, according to our research po, the Sinomac, no? CAMC is also the barred entity according to Asian Development Bank's database. Can we follow the next slide? Can we present the next slide? The reason why I'm showing you this po, Attorney Sagayo, is to dispel the rumors that we are closing the gap. If possible, walang portal to any foreign manipulation sa ating transmission ng energy power. No?
Okay.
This would anyway provide this committee and for your understanding as well na kailangan talagang tamang yung sinabi ni Congressman Ernix na tama magkakasama-sama tayo dito pagdating sa pagprotekta na ating national sovereignty. No?
Sure.
So, would you know, Mr. Chair, Attorney Sagayo, are you familiar that the same company has already been, according to Asian Development Bank's database, that they have there was a report of an anti-corruption integrity standards violation on the grounds of anti-corruption integrity standards. So, according po sa Asian Development Bank, ay ban po itong kumpanya na ito. The barred entity according to the classification of Asian Development Bank. And even corroborated also by the World Bank that this company has committed so much violations in other countries. Would you be familiar with this, Mr. Chair, Attorney Sagayo? Can you confirm if my research and my document is correct? By the way, ang project po, according to the document that I have, ang project po ng CAMC na na-awardan po is the project of upgrading of transmission line. Tama po ba? Ito po yung supply and delivery of various equipment, materials, and accessories for Western Luzon, 500 kV backbone project, Stage 2, Schedule 3, second rebidding, SP23.W, ito mga technical na to. So, bali, according to the data that I have, the upgrading of the Panitan, Nabas, 138 kV transmission line. This was already awarded to the same company that I have been mentioning, as well as Visayas Substation Upgrading Project 2, Schedule 4, to design, supply, installation, testing, commissioning of high voltage equipment including secondary devices at DGIL Substation. Visayas Substation Upgrading Project 2, again, rebidding offshore portion. So there are all the, can we ask our technical people to please show those projects and that have already been awarded to this company? Can you confirm, Attorney Sagayo, Attorney Rico, have you already awarded all these projects to this company?
Can we request to, again, show the list?
Okay. Can you show the list? Those are the projects.
For China CAMC?
Yeah.
The previous...
No, that's not China CAMC. That's China, that's one. We will go to that. Pero ito po yung China CAMC. That's the, can you go back to the previous slide? That's it.
I confirm, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Now, let me go to the next slide. Fujian Electric Power Engineering Company. The slide that you just shown earlier before we ask you to go to the... There's another company, Fujian Electric Power Engineering Company, which also has which you awarded the project of 230 kVE, Reinforcement Project Stage 2, sa Bataan. Supply and delivery of high voltage equipment and materials. Meron din po dyan. But do you confirm that this company also has been awarded with several of these projects? Itong Clark, Mabiga, 69 kV transmission line project, Dasmariñas, 500 kV substation, fifth bank transformers, and the list goes on. Can we ask our secretariat to please show the slides? Next slide, please. That's it. Would you confirm, Mr. Viga?
Mr. Chairman, I confirm, sir.
You confirm. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, let me go to another slide. I'm more interested in yung kanina po tinatanong ni Congresswoman Jinky Luistro about NARI group. Familiar po kayo dito, no? Just I know you have already been answered this, but I just want to for the purpose of record, familiar po kayo sa NARI NARI Group Corporation. Tama po ba? Did I say it right?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, you're familiar with that. And ang gusto ko na po malaman dito sa NARI na to, is NARI affiliated with the... Oh, my question, meron bang State Grid International Development Limited representing or own certain stocks, that's why it may sit sa board? Do you confirm this, board ng NGCP? State Grid International Development Limited, do they have a representative in the board of directors of NGCP?
Representatives, yes, Mr.
So they have a
Chairman,
seat.
yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, is State Grid International, a subsidiary of State Grid Corporation of China, affiliated with I think the State Grid International is a subsidiary Grid Corporation of China, is it correct?
Of State Grid Corporation of
Yes,
China.
of China.
Yes, yes.
That is correct. Okay. So, is NARI now, the company, is he connected, affiliated with State Grid Corporation of China? Is it a subsidiary of State Grid International Development, NARI?
Can we check on that, Mr. Chairman, and can we revert?
Yeah, can we
Yeah.
go back to the previous slides? Because according to Mr. Chair, according to my records, NARI is directly affiliated to the State Grid Corporation of China, or SGCC, which you confirmed just now that it is also connected with the State Grid International Development Limited, which is also connected and affiliated with a subsidiary of State Grid Corporation of China.
Yeah. As to whether NARI is connected with SGDIL
Yes, po.
or what, can we revert to you on this during the next meeting?
But could you at least confirm to this representation that indeed NARI, I'm sorry, State Grid International Development Limited has a seat in the board of NGCP?
Yes, yes, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman. Yes.
In that the State Grid International subsidiary, which has a seat in the board, is a subsidiary of the State Grid Corporation of China.
SGDIL is a
Yes.
subsidiary of SGCC.
That is correct?
Yes, yes, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
According to my records, Mr. Chair, is that NARI is directly affiliated to the State Grid Corporation of China, or SGCC. Na-mention
That's
niyo
what
po.
we need to check, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman.
Please, kindly, please. Kasi ang gusto ko lang pong malaman that also NARI has been awarded with certain projects. Can we go to the next slide? Next slide. Oh, no. Can you go back? Go back. One slide. Yes, that's Mr. Chair. Those are the projects that have been awarded to NARI Corporation. Andyan po, Luzon Voltage Improvement Projects, Stage 2, and many others. No, I will not enumerate to you po, Mr. Chair, Attorney Sagayo, but can you confirm, Mr. Vega, if these projects have been awarded to NARI?
I confirm, Mr. Chair, the SCADA. No? But
Yeah.
for the rest, can we check, sir?
Okay. Thank you. Now, the reason why, Mr. Chair, I'm showing you this is that Di ba balikan ko po yung tanong ko kanina, that the biddings and awards should be stringent. Tama po, and we agreed on that. But what is to me puzzling, no, at this point in time, and I do not find fault here. I just want to base my questions on facts and records. What is confusing to me, Mr. Chair, I don't know how you adopt or implement a certain policy covering your bids and awards, but sa amin po, pag isa pong umuupo sa isang board of directors, halimbawa, dahil affiliated, well-connected ang NARI, would it be a conflict of interest to award certain huge projects to a company that has an influence on how a highest policy-making body of Ngcp sits, no? Halimbawa, ang SGCC ba yun? SGCC, which is directly affiliated with NARI, tapos na-awardan ng company ng contract na meron silang stake doon sa board na yon. Would it be it's a conflict of interest? I don't know how you run the company or your board, but to me, as an ordinary person, I would say that it is a conflict of interest. Would you agree with me? Would that be a fair assessment, Attorney Sagayo?
Yeah, as we have said, Mr. Chairman, just to be sure with respect to our reply, and we undertake to check into this and revert.
Yeah,
Oo.
because we're talking here of transmission lines po.
Correct.
And we agreed that sabi nga po ni Congresswoman Stella Kimbo kanina, I was listening to her interpellation, ang future incoming mayor po natin ng Marikina, tama po yung pagkasabi niya, he tried to bring down the discussion to a level where our consumers would understand. Now, when we talk about grid, these are considered parang it likened to a highway. Now, pag ganito po yung mga projects na sinasabi po natin, huge transmission lines and projects, tapos yung isang state-owned companies by China, Republic of China, has an asset. I don't care whether they have a minimal influence in the board, but as long as they at least influence to some extent the direction of the company to where these awards are to be given, which companies are to given to me, would be a undue advantage and to a very large extent a conflict of interest. And I hope the board of NGCP would look into this, because this is where some of the members of the committee may have apprehension na bakit naman ganon, na kung if you're trying to insulate the board kasi you're talking about transmission of power energy and supply to our communities, you should at least, as far as you can, as best as you can, you know, push all the influence of foreign companies from ever influencing the direction of the board.
We take note of those.
And aside from that, as if that was not enough to go through 3 layers of corporate gymnastics, they still have in their bylaws to ensure that there is a Chinese director present. I hope you understand, this is not xenophobia, but we've already gone time and time again about the issues of national security po. And ako personally, this was very alarming. And the most blatant violation of the franchise that I've seen so far. Mr. Chair, I think I'm more than 5 minutes, but I leave it at that. I think we still have some issues that, to be clear with them. If I still have time, then I'd like to ask some of our other resource persons, but if my time is up.
Minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will be a little anticlimactic po, no? Kasi I just want to, now that I was able to say my piece, I want to go back siguro po kay Attorney Matibag po, no? And you mentioned earlier that remotely there were instances in which they were able to influence our system grid. Can you please elaborate?
Well, it was reported to us that there was a problem in the power grid and they need a technician to address it. So instead of sending the technician, they relay the problem in China, in Nanjing, so that it will be remotely repaired. But of course, it was not recorded properly and all. But the one instance when it's still Transco is operating, nangyari din po yon na nasira, pero hindi na po pumunta yung technician, remotely ginawa. So if something that can be done remotely, definitely na i-repair, pwede ring sirain remotely.
Sir, you mentioned po na it was not recorded. There's no history of this incident.
That's the point na nga kasi hindi na nakakapasok ang Transco. In fact, hindi lang nabanggit kanina ni Ms. Dina na yung sinasabing inspection namin dun sa mga documents, hindi nga pwedeng maglabas ng Xerox copy, hindi pwedeng picturean. So, basahin nyo na lang. Can you just imagine voluminous documents na re-reviewin mo? Pumunta ka sa lugar na sinabi nila, tingnan mo doon. But before that, Mr. Chair, if I will be allowed, kasi meron lang sinabi si Atty. Sagayo na yung tungkol po dun sa decision ng ERC na copy fairness ang Transco na hindi nag-object, we filed an objection. At ang sabi sa amin ng ERC, wala kaming karapatan na sumali doon sa usapin na yun. The legal officers of Transco are here and that can be validated, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, former President Matibag. On another point, you mentioned yung 777, quite media soundbite po, no? Can you please explain to us po, at least I'm more interested in violations of the concession agreement. Could you please enlighten us, sir?
Well, this report was submitted, ito yung last hearing namin po sa Senado na noong February 3, 2020. So pinag-submit kami ng report, ng paper. So we titled it 777, 7 power grid security issues, 7 reasons why NGCP contract with government is onerous, and 7 NGCP violation of the concession agreement. So, if interested po kayo, Mr. Chair, sa violation, basahin ko na lang po isa-isa para mas madali po. Failure to comply with its initial public offering, yung pong sinasabi ninyo, yung obligation nila doon sa public offering, because our point of view at that time, very clear naman po yung wordings ng Section 8 ng franchise law, dispersal. Pag sinabi mong dispersal, you let go of it, papuntang public, hindi from one packet, punta lang sa kabilang packet. So yun po yung isa. Pangalawa po is violation of anti-dummy law. It's already been established na yung CTO noon is a Chinese national. And I hope na sabi, bibigay lahat sa inyo yung mga papel na nagsabi na sila ay pwedeng mag-empleyado. Kasi alam ko po, madami ng hearing na nangyari sa Senado at sinabing pinangako, wala pa pong lumalabas na kopya. Kaya medyo kanina, pasensya na po ulit, nakapagsalita ako na lokohan because that's how I feel, exasperated na. 5 taon po naming nilalaban to. Ganun na nangyari. So violation of anti-dummy law, number 2. Number 3 is engaging in business without prior consent because under the concession agreement, any business na hindi po transmission of high voltage electricity, na yun lang po yung binigay sa kanila talaga, ay dapat ipaalam po sa PISAM, sa Transco, ay meron po silang mga nilagay na facilities doon na telecommunication, meaning they're already been engaging in telecommunication. Tapos number 4 po, non-compliance on separated audit accounts. Tapos abuse of improper exercise of power of eminent domain, yung SSS po na expropriation. Tsaka yung pong paglalagay ng mga in-expropriate na property sa pangalan nila, hindi po sa Transco. Yun po yung pang-anim, yung titling. Tapos yung pong receivable ng Transco noon, meron pong receivable na malaking halaga. Baling nangyari po kasi, nung nag-assume sila noong 2009, may mga collectibles pa. Na nung nabayaran nung sila na nandoon, hindi na binigay sa gobyerno. Yun po.